Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the April Ordinary Meeting of Council. Joined here this evening, General Manager Ken Ross, Director Corporate Services Simon Rule, and Director Roads and Engineering Jeff Gunn. And welcome to the gallery. Could I ask the General Manager to make announcements regarding the live streaming of this evening's meeting, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The meeting is being live streamed and or recorded for on-demand viewing by Council's website. Attendance at the meeting is to be taken as consent by persons to their image and or voice being webcast. All speakers should refrain from making defamatory comments or releasing personal information about another individual without their consent. Council accepts no liability or any damage that may result from defamatory comments made by persons attending meetings. All liability will rest with the individuals who made the comments. The meeting must not be recorded by others without prior written consent of the Council in accordance with Council's Code of Meeting Practice. Councillors and staff are obligated to declare conflicts of interest as required under the Local Government Act and Council's adopted Code of Conduct. Councillors are reminded of the oath of office, where they will be declared and affirm that they will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the people of Wentworth Shire and the Wentworth Shire Council, and they will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretion vested in them under the Local Government Act or any other act to the best of their ability and judgment. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. To the best of our ability and judgment, indeed. Could I ask those who are able to stand, please, for the prayer and acknowledgement? We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we live and work and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Councillors, let us in silence reflect upon our responsibilities to the community which we represent and all future generations, and faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in us to the best of our skill and judgment. Thank you. There don't appear to be any apologies. Are there any requests for leave of absence? Councillor Weeding.
Yes, could I apply for a leave of absence from the 29th of this month to the 29th of May, please?
Any further requests for leave of absence? A seconder for that, please. Councillor Armstrong, thank you. Those in favour? Thank you, that's carried unanimously. Item 4, are there any disclosures of interest? There are none, thank you. Move on to item 5, confirmation of the minutes. Seeking a mover for that, Councillor Rodder, seconder Councillor Nichols. Any questions? Put the motion, those in favour? Thank you, carried unanimously. Councillor Crisp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Council Ordinary Meeting be adjourned for the purpose of conducting a public forum.
Is the motion seconded? Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Those in favour? Thank you. This is the public forum this evening. We'll deal with item 9.8, swimming pool at 221 Pooncarry Road. Our speaker will be Mr. Matt Jackson, speaking to the motion to support an approval for this item. Matt, happy for you to present from the front where we can all see and hear you if you like. And you have...
I won't need it.
3 whole minutes.
3 whole minutes. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, councillors and staff. I'll keep it pretty short because there's not much to say much really in regards to the planning aspects. I understand that you have been presented with 2 options, either to approve or to refuse the swimming pool. Respectively, the assessing planner does not fully understand the sections of the Wentworth LEP that they've looked at, and the reasons why the application is even here today. Clause 7.9 of the LEP, being the Riverton Farm Development, is the relevant section that was created for this subject land, which has allowed a slightly different setback from the highest bank that is normally undertaken in most areas of the Wentworth Shire. Every single application that has been applied for over the past 4 or 5 years within this subdivision has complied with that clause, as does this swimming pool. A simple error, in my view, in the LEP, which also makes another clause applicable, being the 7.6 standard one, is the only reason why we're here today. Additionally, every single other dwelling and development that has happened within the Riverton subdivision has met these rules completely, as does this one. So, respectfully, I'll request that the swimming pool is approved subject to standard conditions.
Thanks, Matt. You have used up 1.4 minutes. No, thank you for that. Councillors, does anybody have a question for Matt, please? Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Matt, sorry, just to confirm, you said so Riverton is 7.9. Yeah, cool. I just want to make sure I got it right.
That was an LEP amendment for the specific rezoning and planning matters associated with that Darling River frontage.
Thank you. Does any other councillor have a question for Matt while he's available?
Matt,
Councillor Beaumont.
I've puzzled over this a little bit in that I read the agenda that's been put before us. Is when you look at the planning office assessment, there's a lot of terminology which refers to does not comply, and at one point within the report it says. We can find it quickly based on the information above to be read in conjunction with the attachments. 5, assessment report. The application does not comply with some relevant matters for consideration. It goes on to refer to a lack of information being provided, and I guess that's the angle I'm coming from in your response at attachment 3. That there's not a lot of additional information for councillors to go on in terms of making a valued judgment. That's just my view. Sorry?
Is there a question or?
Well, it's a comment, but I'd like your comment or response to that.
In response to what you've said, simply because the reason this application is only here is to break a rule that is applicable everywhere else.
Yes. Yeah, that's it.
Apart from this spot here.
Yeah.
So when the officer says I lack information, it's because I really shouldn't even be applying for this application respectfully for this area. And every single other application that's been applied for over the past 4 years have all the same processes had to happen. You've all seen these applications over these years.
Yeah.
Same thing, breaking the 7.6 rule, but meeting the 7.9, which is what we've applied for, and that's clearly shown on the plans that we've provided.
That's in relation to the setback.
Correct. Yes. From the riverbank, yes.
But there are also, like in my reading of this, some anomalies in relation to decking and that around the pool and the finished surface around the pool.
The development in its entirety is behind that line.
Sorry.
The development in its entirety is behind the line. That's why the measurements were shown. Additional ones that I personally put on myself to make sure it was.
Yeah. What about decking and that around the pool? There's no reference in relation to decking or finishing around the pool that I've seen.
Just to confirm, the whole pool in its entirety, everything I'm proposing is outside the area.
Just for clarification, fencing, decking, and everything is in the prescribed distance on your plans. Yes.
On the site plan, yes. I actually put a bit more on the red ones than me personally. Put those on.
All right, thank you for that answer. Councillor Watt.
I've got a question for the General Manager, please. So in regards to that, the officer, was that external or internal?
External.
I would never say that about an officer from Wentworth Shire.
They were external.
No, that assessment, I would never say I disagree with an officer's recommendation from Wentworth Shire.
Well, reality is that it's irrespective of whether they're internal or external, they still are the Wentworth Shire because they're contracted.
I understand that.
Yeah, I think think if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, Mr. Jackson's comment was around either not observing or ignoring clause 7.9. That's correct, without putting words in your mouth.
Yes.
Any further questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Crisp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council reconvenes into open session.
Is the motion seconded? Councillor Weeding, those in favour? Thank you, that's carried, and we are back in session. Item 6.1, the status report on previous council resolutions for noting. So I have a move. Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Beaumont. Anybody wish to speak to the motion? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Thank you. That is carried unanimously. We'll move to item 7.1. I move my annual report. Seek a seconder. Councillor Rodder, thank you. Wonderful launch last night of Fibre Optic Symphonic Orchestra. You were all present. I think we'd all agree it was a pretty spectacular launch. Lovely to hear from the artist behind the installation, Bruce Munro, and just everybody, most of us for the first time, to experience what a wonderful community asset we have. So that was good. Today,
how many former mayors did you entertain today?
Several, and a couple of former Shire presidents. So, yeah, I'll just point out it was really nice to have a quick luncheon today with some of our former Shire presidents and mayors, being Ian Murdoch, Ron Coon, Warren Ward, Melissa Hedricks, and current councillor Nichols, of course. And we had apologies from Don McKinnon and Mark Thompson, but yeah, it was just lovely to catch up and reflect on some of their positive recollections and others, and yeah, it was good to have a discussion. They all remain very committed and fond of the Wentworth Shire. We just completed a citizenship ceremony too, where 7 newest Australians have walked out of our building, so that was lovely. And here we are in the council meeting. Any questions? Councillor Nichols.
Mr. Mayor, could you do a brief report on the Country Mayors Association meeting in Sydney, please?
Yes, Country Mayors Association meeting was held towards the end of March, and we had quite good presentations there from, we started off with a tribute to the Bondi victims, which was very nice. We heard from Minister Atchison, the Roads Minister. It was a good opportunity to just check in with progress on some grants that we've got in train, and of course to catch up with the dinner the night before. Was attended and spoken to by the Minister for Local Government. So that actually just gave us a little chance to re-prosecute some of our little gripes around code of meeting conduct, and the good news is that, well, there's been no determinations made, but certainly there will be a review of some of those more contentious issues, so we'll watch that space. And the weather was very tropical.
Thank you.
Councillor Crisp.
On that subject of meeting, Mr. Mayor, was there any discussion about foreshadowed amendments to the planning legislation and the powers of councils to make determinations?
Not in a very technical way. It was raised from the floor, as it was the previous meeting, but no, there was no new information as such.
Thank you.
Anything further? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. Move to item 9.1, the General Manager's Report for April 2026. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Rodder, seconded Councillor Crisp. Are there any questions? I'll put the motion, sorry. Those in favour? Thank you. Carried. We'll move to item 9.2, the monthly finance report for the month of March. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Rodder, seconded Councillor Beaumont. Are there any questions? Councillor Rodder.
Just in regards to the higher percentage of rates that are being collected, do you attribute that to anything particular?
It's seasonal, Councillor Rodder. Some months we're slightly behind, and then other months we're slightly ahead. Just depends on, I suppose, ratepayers' individual circumstances. Whether some of them may have been paying by monthly payments or fortnightly payments, and all of a sudden just pay the whole quarter up front. Just there's no real alignment.
Yep.
I'm always interested each month when I do see it, just to see where it's tracking. So
Yeah, it's pleasing to see.
absolutely, yeah.
Councillor Nichols.
There's the question, please, on page 45. Additional water charges of over 1.5 million. Is that excessive to what we usually have?
Again, it's seasonal. Councillor Nichols, depends on weather. And up until a month or so ago, we were pretty dry, and then all of a sudden we get 200 mils of rain. So I'm probably anticipating the next meter reading, which will be in sort of middle of June, should be a little bit less than what it has been. But up until we had a hot summer, this reading was taken end of February, sort of through February. So yeah.
Thank you. Director, one of the topics actually that was touched on briefly at the Country Mayors Association meeting was from the New South Wales Grants Commissioner, but I don't think she actually specified the timing of the next round of FA grants. Do you have any information on whether we're likely to receive an injection of payments in advance?
Oh, it's at the discretion of the federal government. So the Treasurer, as part of the federal budget, determines how they're going to do that.
We expect to hear something on that post federal budget.
Yeah. So essentially, the federal government makes the decision. They then hand the money to the states, and then the states divvy it up from there.
Yes. Yeah. Very good. Any further questions? Put the motion. Those in favour? Thank you. That is carried unanimously. We move to item 9.3, the monthly investment report for March 2026. Moved by Councillor Nichols with a question, and I'll just get a seconder. Councillor Armstrong. Councillor
questions.
Through the again, Simon knows when we're going to ask these questions. The investment surplus funds that you mentioned there runs a red flag to me. Which of the eternally restricted funds have we used and part of?
And the Mayor did ask me about this the other day, and I probably should have left them as zero just to show them, which I'll do next month. So there was previously the plant replacement reserve, and then there's the capital projects reserve and the future development reserve have all been utilised so far.
That causes a red flag to me. And our investment funds have been under expectation for the whole year. Do we need to adjust now, or we're looking at $135,000 less than we expected?
Yeah, I'll probably, as part of I'm doing the quarterly budget review at the moment, so I'll probably look at. Yeah, we've had a lot of, because of some of the projects lining up and we get payments and stuff, like we've had to do a lot of 1 month investments this year instead of the longer 2 and 3 and 4 month investments. So that's bitten into our Plus we had initially had 3 rate cuts as well, which didn't help. Now we've had 2 come back on. So
Those
Right.
going on from that, it probably prompts me that we have 3 grants that are due to expire on the 30th of the 6th
Yep.
this year. Are we in a position to pay those out, or are we going to extend them?
the main road blocks grant one is an annual one that'll be extended by the 30th of June. The flood recovery one, we're in the middle of spending that at the moment. There may be some surplus funds from there, and then that'll be at the discretion of the funding body, so they then go back through NEMA, which is for that. And we're currently talking to the Crown about the Crown Reserve Improvement Fund with the Astronomy Park as to whether we can potentially extend the scope of the project to spend some more
Thank you.
money. And then the other one, the regional emergency one, we've got till October next year to
Okay, thank you.
spend those ones. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Director. Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you to rule. So our amount, council has, so the sum of what we have invested decreased 1.4 million month to month.
Yep.
Just what's that decrease a result of?
A lot of.
I think you might have answered some of it.
Yeah, that's all. The answer to Councillor Nichols' question was more what reserves did we use to help pay for it. So yeah, the last month we've spent a fair bit of money. So we've been just doing like main capital works ones. So roads to recovery, we spent $600,000. This time of the year is when we usually do a lot of the programmed works for Transport for New South Wales and the state highways. So we've got a claim in for about $900,000 for that, which will probably get paid next month sometime. So the figure for April will probably look a little bit worse, but we've got about $3 million worth of claims that we're waiting to get paid for, but they probably won't get paid until May. And then also, and in that transport one too, there was 150 grand's worth of work we did for flood stuff for the highways as well. So
What's happened?
a lot has
Just had
happened,
a-
yes.
One more,
Yep.
Mr. Mayor. So I was trying to see where I wrote this out. So on page 47, we've got, I should have highlighted the line I read this in.
Paper's good for that.
Well, I'll do it here. To the end of March was 133,000 in interest, but in the start on page 52 on the start of the Yield Hub report, it's got financial year 26 interest of 151.5 million. Sorry, 1.4 million to 1.5 million was my 2 questions.
Yeah, there's a bit of a difference between. So the Yield Hub report talks about interest that we've actually received up until the end of March, but then looks at those deposits that are due to happen in April and forwards and say, well, here's how much. So it's a sort of like it's a combination cash accrual.
So it's accruing those ones. Yeah.
Whereas the report on page 47 is just actual interest that we received during the month as cash. So
I think I've got Councillor Beaumont, then Councillor Weeding, then Councillor Crisp. Did you have a question? Okay, Councillor Beaumont.
Okay, so I have a question. Given the current economic climate we're facing right around the world, really, and the cost of oil and availability of oil and fuel, etc. My question I could have posed possibly in 9.2, the monthly finance report, but given the context of the matters under consideration within 9.3, I'm asking the question under this agenda item. But just wondering, through the appropriate director, what impact the current economic climate and specifically the cost of and availability of fuel and oil is having on our day-to-day operations of our fleet and heavy vehicle operational matters in terms of roads and.
Gun and I, or you?
Yeah, I'll put one. Probably the only part I can add to that is, and I think I made mention it when we spoke last month. So initially, when I started doing the budget preparation for this year, I'd used a 4% CPI for next year, based on that inflation was sort of just touching 3 or just above 3 at that particular point in time. I've now increased that to 5% because I think inflation at the end of February was 3.8%, give or take. So I've already made, from my perspective, forward looking into next year, anticipating what's starting to happen. So that's sort of the only input I can make into that. But I'll leave the rest to answer the rest of you.
Certainly not experiencing any supply related issues at the moment, Councillor, for fuel. I'm sure the operational costs associated with running the plant have gone up in respect to the fuel usage, and we also see that for all the external plant machinery hire that we get at the moment, where there's a fuel levy on everything that we hire in at the moment. So yeah, certainly is having an impact in that respect, but no supply related issues. So it's not affecting our ability to respond or deliver projects at the moment.
So we don't need to give any thought to the road crew and how they operate. I'm thinking if fuel and oil and diesel is probably double what it was a few months ago. There's going to be a financial burden there, of course, but is it going to lead to a situation where we have to curtail any activity because of the cost blowout or availability?
Not currently, not under the current circumstances. I might just pause that answer for a moment. Did you tell me about our contract with RMCC contract, and was there talks with Transport for New South Wales and how they were honouring us to continue on doing contract work on the highways and stuff?
Don't know if it was me. We're currently undertaking that work and will continue to do so.
Yeah, without any restrictions. So I was trying to answer Councillor
that's
Beaumont.
Yeah, no restrictions.
Yeah, Transport for New South Wales have not put any hold on any of our projects that we're doing on state highways.
No. So the expectation from Transport is for us to deliver all identified works, both capital and maintenance response requirements.
So we'll pass on the full costs of those.
That's in the contract arrangements. In our day-to-day regional or local roads and other things, it hasn't shown any red flags yet in terms of we've talked about forecasting future works and having consideration to it, but the supply is there. There might be some opportunities to sort of affect these efficiencies in the use of the trucks and heavy machinery. It might not always come back to the depot every night. It might be parked elsewhere, as long as it's safe and secure. The union's sort of thinking, can you do your work in 4 days? So there's flexibility. There's other things still being considered, but there's no sort of mandated obligations to have anything.
Anyway, it's something we need to be mindful of, obviously.
Yeah, look, early on we talked to the supplier directly, who's Sunraysia Petroleum. I spoke to the director of that company early on, and he guaranteed us as a priority client as best he could, and delivery into our tanks at both the depots and remote areas has been fine today.
And if I can just add briefly to that, Councillor Beaumont, this morning through Country Mayors Association, we had an online meeting with New South Wales Minister for Energy, Penny Sharp, and that was about these sorts of issues, because some councils are experiencing actually having to make decisions around cutting back on services due to supply issues, whereas for us, fortunately, it's more a case of it's a dollar impact, definitely, but not a supply. I think maybe we're cushioned a little bit by comparison to some further east because we've got access to Adelaide and Melbourne ports in terms of getting our distributors getting supply, but it's something that the Minister indicated she's keen to hear back from councils if it's putting acute pressures on us. And of course, some councils did mention that in their budget calculations, they're pretty much having to double their costs for fuel. So, and then the other question, which the General Manager sort of covered off on, is how do we go with existing contracts in terms of recovering actual cost, which seems to be...
Yeah, no, that's fine. That explains it.
Councillor Weeding.
Yes, just following up from Councillor Nichols' question on unexpended grants. If we get an extension for the astronomy park, does that have to be spent down there, or can we move it to other?
Has to be spent down there.
So what will we be doing down there too?
Whatever, we'll look at the entire, we had a discussion about it yesterday and potentially Jeff can talk about it a little bit more, but it's within the entire boundary of the reserve, so that encompasses the car park and that where the boat ramp and that is as well. So potentially we could do some stuff down there once they come back to us and give us the yay or nay about whether they'll give us that ability to do that. Then we'll sit down and work out what we want to do.
Councillor Crisp. The Director Rule, page 47, under matters under consideration, the second paragraph there, particularly the last sentence, which is these funds are designed for specific purposes and need to be progressively replenished to support the commitments. What are our obligations to replenish it, and how do you plan to manage that replenishment?
Well, we've got a resolution on the books from previous councils to have those funds there set aside for a specific purpose. So until such time as that resolution is removed, we have an obligation to put funds or replenish those reserves to the best of our ability. So hence why I put that 12 to 18 months, and it potentially could be even 24 months. It just depends on some of the things that Councillor Beaumont just spoke about before, that to do it over a sort of coordinated, conservative approach, so that we're spending money and focusing on the core things that we need to spend money on and deliver. And just means that potentially requests for discretionary funds, which we've had the ability to consider in previously, we'll have to look at in a lot more and give a lot more serious thought to as to whether we've got the capacity to fund those in the immediate future.
Thank you.
Thank you for that answer. Are there any further questions? I'm just going to sneak a very quick comment in here as an extension to my answer previously to Councillor Nichols, because I think I can, by the skin of my teeth, attach it to a finance-related topic. What we did attend at that recent Country Mayor's meeting was some workshops on budget preparation and, in particular, special rate variations. And it may surprise you the number of councils across regional New South Wales that are considering or applying or waiting for outcomes on special rate variations. So the financial sustainability of councils in the medium term is something that is really under pressure across the board. And I mean, I'm very thankful at this point with the stewardship of our finance team that it's not something we've had to consider or are actively considering, but just to let you know that it's a very common issue at the moment across regional councils. So
you put the onus back on the ratepayer, which is sad.
And some of those councils have been back for more than one variation too. So anyway, I'll leave that as a comment. Thank you. You have a question, Councillor?
Just a general comment with regard to the comments around the fuel pricing and the shortage of fuel. We also need to remember that it's not just fuel that's impacted, it's the secondary products that are made from fuel that are also impacted as well.
Like bitumen, asphalt. Thank you. Yes, so many.
Water pipes, yeah.
Yep. If there's no further questions for the Director, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. We'll move to item 9.4, disclosure of interest return. There's a recommendation here with a report for tabling. Councillor Rodder has moved. Councillor Beaumont seconded. Any discussion?
Just a side note that Simon, would I be able to get another disclosure of interest?
Yep.
Please.
Okay. No discussion. Welcome Aaron to the Wentworth Shire Council team and wish you every success, and I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Thank you, carried. Okay, could we move to item 9.5, the Heritage and History Advisory Committee revised charter? Would someone like to move? Councillor Beaumont has moved. Councillor Crisp has seconded. Would anyone like to speak to the motion? Councillor Beaumont.
Yeah, look, just a couple of suggestions that I think we should think about. Page 72, the purpose. I would like to see in the second line the word and history to follow on from advice on cultural heritage and history, just so that it mirrors the actual title of the document. The other thing I would like council to think about the minimum frequency of meetings to be quarterly rather than biannually. I think we've got potentially a bit happening in this space, particularly I think about the PS Ruby and some of the pressing issues and matters for discussion around that vessel that need to happen, I think, in the short term. Would warrant at least a minimum frequency of quarterly meetings.
Which page is that one? Sorry, Brian.
Sorry, that's page 73 under committee meetings.
Yep.
So manager with minimum. Gotcha. Of quarterly rather than biannually. Other than that, I think the document's fine from my perspective.
Councillor.
Just had a question. Is there a full committee in place right now?
Yes. Yes, there is.
No vacancies. Thank you.
The required community members are there, aren't they? Yeah. Councillor Nichols.
Yes, Councillor, Mr. Mayor, I'll be voting against the this charter. I think it's verging on being bullying, and I doubt that we'll get, if anybody from the community reads it, that we'll get nominations for people who want to serve on. People into a committee that can do nothing. They have no power, they have no rights, they can be sacked at any time. So it's one of those things, as I said to you when I answered to you the other day, I think my 2 years is up. So we're only on for 2 years. You thought it was only for people coming onto committee. Yeah, I would like to actually see the charters for the other sporting clubs to see whether they have such restrictive terms and conditions in them.
Can I just make a quick comment? The tenure of 2 years, that's simply saying the appointment is for 2 years, 2-year terms. When we deal with the committees, I don't think it's restricting it to 2 years.
The committee is under review. The mayor is elected for 2 years, so we try to align the sentencing or the structure of that to sort of say that on that 2-year rotation, the councillors are reappointed to the committee.
As necessary. Yeah, but anyway, that's my thought on it. It's very, very restrictive, and I think that we've sort of almost crossed the line.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Councillor Nichols. I think I can. I will.
Yeah.
No, just when you make reference to words like bullying or no one would be interested, is that more in relation to speaking on behalf of the committee to media? Because I mean, it's an advisory committee, so those recommendations do flow through to council.
Yeah, you're right, but you find that all our sporting committees are advisory committees as well as, and you advise, let me say to you, the sporting committees certainly talk to each other about things that have happened at those meetings, and so they have an opinion. What I'm looking at the various things here, the council retains the right to dissolve a committee at any time by resolution of time. The committee has no formal delegations, acts only an advisory committee. All media represented, press contact, public, but it's the whole thing is, you've got a lot of people volunteering time. and all they're going to do is volunteer their time. They're going to have no ability to do anything really.
Okay, so I would just say, yeah, they are. That is the purpose of it's an advisory committee, and so if that committee, you're the current chair, I believe, that committee is capable of endorsing resolutions, which then come back to council. So I guess it is making it pretty explicit that it's an advisory committee. It's not making decisions on behalf of council, but that's probably enough from me. I'll go to Councillor Beaumont. Indicated you'd like to.
Oh, yeah, look, I was probably going to just make the same point as yourself, Mr. Mayor, that it is an advisory committee, and my belief is that it's set up to consult with and bring contribution from the community as a group to council on their perspective in relation to heritage and cultural matters around the Shire. It's bringing the thoughts and opinions and ideas forward for discussion to council. I see that as the purpose, and it's then up to council to make the decisions. I think the document basically says that. In fact, the sentence in the second paragraph, through its actions and contributions, the committee encourages increased community participation, awareness and appreciation of heritage across the Shire. That's the whole purpose of it.
Thanks, Councillor Beaumont. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Rodder?
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, so in regards to the advisory nature and the reference to the user group, I sit on a couple of user groups, and it's not really any different. So they have user group agreements. None of those people are permitted to make decisions or go to the media. It's the council representative or the individual groups that take matters from those meetings to council. I don't see that it's really any different.
I think if I may comment just for a moment, with respect to some past matters, Councillor Nichols, there was a thing under the Local Government Act called a Section 355 committee, and they had a certain level of delegation and authority. This is not a Section 355 committee. This is an advisory committee to provide topics of discussion, reports, recommendation, and then it comes up to council for resolution of allocation of resources or targeting or consultation or whatever the case may be.
Do we have any 355 still?
No.
No. So we've taken all the ability out. It doesn't matter.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in considering Councillor Nichols' concerns, I just had a quick look at the only other charter I could find online is our Audit and Risk Committee charter, which is probably, as a council in terms of complying with the law, probably our most critical one. And even though the terms in that are couched in a lot more legal language, the terms are not that much different to this, right? Even that committee.
It's a paid committee.
It is paid, but that committee still can make recommendations to council and is subject to council and is not separate to us, right? That's essentially, in my reading of the charter for the Heritage Committee, Heritage History Committee and Cultural, that it is saying the same thing as that, just with less legal language around it.
Thank you. Now, what we just need to do now is tidy up what we're actually going to, what motion we're going to move. And it's pretty much as printed with the addition of the word history in line 2 of page 72. With quarterly aspect, I'm not asking you to change your amendment, Councillor Beaumont. I'm just suggesting that it's a minimum. So if there's more business to attend to, I don't see that prevents you from having quarterly meetings. This just sort of sets the benchmark going forward that it must meet at least twice a year. Anyway, for your consideration.
Yeah, look, I'll go back to what I said earlier. I think there's a bit happening in this space, in particularly in relation to the PS Ruby, and I think minimum quarterly would be more appropriate at this stage. Keeping in mind that this advisory committee in existence since I think about July 2023,
Sure.
And we've had 2 meetings in that time frame, so,
One upcoming.
sorry?
There is
One
one.
coming up, yes,
Yeah.
but I mean, going back in time, we've had 2 in that, almost 3-year period. So I would like to stick with the minimum of quarterly at this point in time, and perhaps that could be reviewed down the track.
Righto. So is the seconder happy with those amended word changes as we've just discussed?
So what were the word changes?
It's on page 73 to change the minimum meeting to quarterly, and on page 72 insert the word history in line 2. So support and advice on cultural heritage and history. Councillor Crisp.
Mr. Mayor, in that committee meeting and the motion that we have there, I would like to move a different amendment, because I think that
Point of order,
council
Mr. Mayor.
meetings
Sorry,
are a minimum.
point of order,
So
Councillor
how do we
Armstrong.
manage this?
Sorry, and I might have called that incorrectly. Just for clarity, the only resolution that's been moved is the one that's on the screen there as council resolution. We didn't move and second the first one, did we?
Yes, what we did is actually move and second the printed recommendation, and then Councillor Beaumont has indicated he'd like some word changes, which that's what I've said we need to tidy up. That essentially becomes an amendment.
That is an amendment. We need to deal with that amendment first.
Yes.
Before we can deal with further amendments.
So that's why I've asked so what I'll do is seek a seconder for Councillor Beaumont's amended.
I would second Councillor Beaumont's amendment.
Thank you. We have a seconder. Would anyone like to speak for this amended motion? Councillor Beaumont has spoken for it, so that's fine. Councillor Weeding.
Just a question, if we move it to a minimum of 4, it doesn't mean there's only 4. If the committee feels that they need more meetings, they're within their right to ask for more.
Correct. That's my point about it being biannually. It doesn't prevent you having quarterly meetings. But yes, to answer your question, would anyone like to speak against the amended motion?
What was the amended motion?
The amended motion.
Out of those 2 words.
Okay, so what the normal motion?
Normal motion's now been let late.
Councillor Crisp.
I'm going to speak against the amended motion, because I feel that a minimum of 2 meetings a year is a sufficient benchmark for the committee, given that it's a minimum. If they want to have 6 or 8 meetings because there's a contentious issue, that is allowed for in the charter, but having to meet twice a year, and if you look at the previous 2 years that the committee has existed, and they've only had 2 meetings, because there wasn't any pressing references towards that committee. So once the Ruby matter has passed, 4 meetings a year, I think might be more than is necessary, and an impasse on perhaps to assemble an agenda, have a meeting when there's not a lot happening, is more than is required.
Thanks, Councillor Crisp. Any further speakers for the amendment? We have Councillor Armstrong as the seconder of the amendment.
Mr. Mayor, I would speak for the amendment. In speaking, I just to address Councillor Crisp's concern there, in accepting this, the recommendation is that the charter be reviewed again in 12 months' time. So if in 12 months' time the committee reports back that the compulsory 4 meetings a year is excessive, we as a council have the opportunity to review it again then and change the required frequency.
Is it
After 2 years, Councillor Armstrong.
The charter states this charter will be reviewed after 12 months.
Well,
That's in the summary in the report to council.
in the document that I have before me, the 12 months is struck out and 2 years is there unstruck out.
So the marked up charter on page 7.
So the marked up charter doesn't reflect what is in the summary in the report then. So the summary that I'm looking at on the screen in the council report states the charter states that this charter will be reviewed after 12 months.
That goes from the 22nd of the September meeting. So that meeting.
So, well, now I'm a bit confused that
Yeah,
the
so
charter,
that's
the
the
draft
other
charter we've
charter.
presented and the summary of the report don't match now.
So just for clarity, that refers to the existing charter,
Mhm.
and what we're debating is the revised charter, which the
Withdraw
revision
my
is
statement then, Mr. Mayor.
sure. Your point still stands that there's a revision of the charter, but it's in 2 years. Okay, right, we've had another speaker for. Any speakers against the amendment? Councillor Lotta.
In reference to the biannual, I think that gives plenty of capacity for that committee to determine a meeting schedule which is much greater than that, which reduces the onus on the council's importance of reviewing that charter, being 2 years. User group meetings are held 6 monthly, so they're biannual. And although there's some, as Councillor Beaumont said, there's pressing matters there in review in regards to this particular committee, but under the current review of charter as presented, it doesn't preclude them from meeting once a week if they like.
Thank you, Councillor Lotta. Any further speakers for the amendment? You'll have opportunity to conclude, Councillor Bowman. Councillor Evans.
I think, look, I support the amendment. I think within that review time, I think it's important to move forward with some of the pressing issue with that advisory committee. Also, I might just make a comment that meetings are called by the chair of that committee, if I'm correct. So they can be called outside those times. But I think at this point, I'd support the extra meetings, and it simply means that it's a process of council. If, at least in that review time, we can move those issues forward, get that resolved, and then review those meeting times at a later time.
Thanks, Councillor Evans. I'm just going to speak briefly against the amendment for the simple reason I agree with Councillor Beaumont that at the current time there's some issues that require more attention than perhaps usual, and therefore that as a consequence I would expect that there'll be more frequent meetings, and to have more frequent meetings is not restricted by having a minimum biannual meeting stipulated in the charter. I think by increasing that to quarterly, moving into the future might put undue administrative burden on council officers, whereas there's nothing stopping, as Councillor Evans pointed out, the chair of the committee calling for an additional meeting at any time. So that's my only reason. Councillor Beaumont, would you like to conclude the debate?
Yes, look, I've probably outlined my my preference for quarterly pretty well. There is a need, I believe, and I think that what has happened historically over the last 3 years since the formation of this Heritage and History Advisory Committee sort of demonstrates that there has been, struggling for the right word, there's been a reluctance, but certainly hasn't been meetings called by the chair, and probably a reluctance on behalf of the advisory committee members to call for a meeting. Certainly members of that committee have approached me numerous times and asked when is there going to be a Heritage and History Advisory Committee meeting. We have a group of people out there that are enthusiastic about this subject and this matter of heritage and history. We haven't utilised them very well to date, and I think that the onus should be on council to set a time frame, I believe being a minimum of quarterly, to ensure that these people have the potential to contribute to the very to the topic of heritage and history and in particular Ruby, because there is a great level of interest in that vessel. Yeah, I would like to see this motion passed.
Thank you, Councillor Beaumont. I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please.
Let me read the motion out again, please. I'm confused.
I beg your pardon?
Does the amendment one have to be done first? And see whether
Yes, the amendment. Yes, the amended motion. I beg your pardon. Sorry, Councillor Weeding, you have a question?
I'm just not sure what I'm voting on. Can we read it out again?
Okay, well, I'll make it really.
Sorry, and that should be seconded by me, Mr. Mayor, not Councillor Chris, the amendment.
Yes, that's correct. Yep, we'll change that. So essentially, Councillor Weeding, we're changing two words on page 72, line 2, to add the words after support and advice on cultural heritage and history. And the second change of words is on page 73, to change it from a minimum of meeting biannually to meeting quarterly.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to put the amended motion. Those in favour? Those against? The amended motion is lost. We are back to the original motion that was moved by Councillor Beaumont, which then became an amendment. So I'll seek a mover for a motion, please.
You still have the original motion moved, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, that's moved by Councillor Beaumont and seconded by Councillor Crisp. Do you wish to speak? Do you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Crisp?
As a seconder, I think we do need to tidy up the first part of the amendment. So, having the amendments on display, I would like now to move an amendment to the motion.
The amendment's defeated, so we're now back at the printed recommendation. If you'd like to move an amendment.
Yes, that the charter be revised to add the word history after the word heritage in line 2 of page 72.
Is the amended motion seconded? Councillor Rodder. Thank you. Would anyone like to speak to the amendment? Councillor Armstrong.
Just a question for clarity, and I think just to help the staff. So the amendment motion would read that Council adopts the Heritage and History Advisory Committee Charter with the addition of the words "and history" after the word heritage and culture in line. Because we still need to adopt. Yes.
I can.
Yeah.
As the mover of the motion, I'm happy to accept.
Yes. So essentially, it'd be perfect.
Beautiful. Okay. Right. We have an amendment moved, and is the seconder happy with that discussion? You are the seconder. Would anyone like to speak to the amendment? Would anyone like to speak against the amendment? I'll put the motion, the amended motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. That becomes the motion. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? I beg your pardon, Councillor Nichols. Did I call you as a friend previously? You voted against?
The amendment, like I'm going now voting against the charter.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Nichols' vote will be recorded against the motion. Thank you. Alrighty. Item 9.6, the mobile food vendor policy. We have a recommendation essentially to endorse the draft food vendor policy for exhibition for 28 days. Councillor Rodder, you are moving as printed. Councillor Weeding has seconded. Would anyone like to speak to the motion?
I have a question.
A question, Councillor Rodder.
So in regards to determine a fee of $180 for the mutual recognition scheme process, through you, Mr. Mann, with the director, give some indication of how that figure was arrived at, please.
Defer back to the General Manager on that one.
The guidelines put out by the Office of Local Government said it should be respectful and probably a little bit less than your annual fee that you have adopted. So 192, less a little bit, 180.
Less
Both
illiquid.
sides of it then.
Can't argue with that.
So they only have to pay one fee of $180 if they go with the mutual recognition they've been
In New South Wales.
approved elsewhere. Yes,
In New South
I
Wales.
understand the distinction.
Yes, that's correct.
Right.
But having said that, there's further notation to say that maybe our annual fees and charges and the quality of a bricks and mortar food premises and a mobile food van need to be really looked at in the next round of fees and charges to be adopted next month.
Okay. Sorry, subsequent question to that. In regards to the placement of the James King Park food vendor, which is I think most likely what brought about the review of this policy. So,
You've got a new plan on your
I do have a new plan. So, so the new plan we were provided with tonight is the new location. Will that remove the need for that particular vendor in that spot to use a generator?
That's correct.
So they'll be able to access power.
That's correct.
Right. So there'll be a lot less noise pollution in that area. So that solves one problem.
The choice of location is meant to address several problems.
Fantastic. Pleased to hear.
So it is noise, parking, conflict with pedestrians, and every other issue that's been raised in the last 15 months.
Fantastic.
And whatever new ones may be raised.
It's a little bit unpredictable, but I imagine there'll be
It's going on
public
public
consultation, so we're expecting that there'll be a level of dialogue.
Thank you.
The next order of call, we've got Councillor Armstrong, then Councillor Beaumont, then Councillor Nichols. You speaking for, or do you have?
Just have a couple of questions, Mr. Mayor. I'll flag it. 2 questions, and I think Mr. General Manager has already touched on one of them. So, and I know it's to do with this mobile food vendors, but just for clarity for me in my head, currently, if you're a mobile food vendor, you pay the 1 annual fee.
Yeah, an inspection fee.
Yep. And is that the same fee whether they operate 7 days a week or 1 day a week?
That's the current problem in the equity, yes.
No, that's my 2 questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Beaumont.
Yes, so I just want to ask the General Manager, the fee of $180, does that cover the access to power and use and daily use?
No, there's an additional charge in relation to the fees and charges, which talks about a $38 a day power charge.
Thank you. Councillor Nichols.
Yeah, but that's something I've almost forgotten. How many do we have currently that are mobile phone vans that we have registered? And what happens when we go out if we have more people and we have spaces? What are you going to do then? Is it first in best dressed or best dog? Whoever's got the biggest dog gets there, or?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Nichols. And in relation to that, so in some reserve places, there's enough room for 2, and there might be a booking system. Some, as a registered mobile food vendor within Wentworth Shire Council, just sees the opportunity and pull up. So there's a combination of all the above. I haven't come across a conflict between 2 mobile food vendors as yet.
Okay, and how
Generally
many
worked out.
registered, or is it
8, I think.
8? And that was sort of what I was getting at, because with 8 people, I think we've got about 5 spaces. But right, so, and are they then going to be restricted? Have we the ability to restrict them to the places that we consider they should be?
Look, a lot of them are. The junction's only really used on event time. There has been interest shown in can people go to the junction. Curl was very prominently used because of the highway, and now the Rose Garden at Wronga because of the highway and passing traffic. The deliberation over the timing of things, we've left this policy fairly open-ended to give opportunity for people to either have breakfast, lunch or dinner. So the reality is that it's fairly open-ended. The policing or enforcement thereof will only come about if there's a complaint or there's a noise complaint or there's other.
I mean, I'm asking that because we have a coffee van which is 7 days a week virtually down the road here, and I think he's probably on private property, and then driving to Mildura as you do virtually every week. So the man who's now pulled in alongside the old animal park. He's selling coffee and food as well, and I'm just sort of thinking, do they just pull up with those sorts of things? Do they have the ability?
We've got the allocated sites. I mean, this is all about on reserve land. This isn't about in the left hand lane or on the shoulder of a highway or anything like that. This is sort of gets them hopefully in a situation to manage the traffic and the noise and other issues.
I think in summary, Councillor Nichols, most of the time in most of the spaces, it's worked out amicably between two or more businesses as to who's going to take what time frames. But that's just what I've observed.
Yeah, and to respond or concur with that, I've never been asked a question. Mr. X is booked in there and Mr. Y wants it at the same time. I've never been asked to have, no.
Before I head to you, Councillor Armstrong, we have Councillor Rodder with a further question.
Well, it's around that issue. So I just wanted to ask a question in regards to our current status of health inspector and our health inspector records, because there was a situation which arose most recently, which I was involved in, where they couldn't find any record of the inspection or what it was even named as, the cafe at the gardens. So do we currently have an officer? And we don't. Are we recruiting for that?
Yeah, it was meant to be through the manager of building and compliance, hoping for some level of qualifications, but that position's currently being re-advertised. So no, we don't have a current environmental health officer undertaking food inspections.
Right. So who's looking after that?
I've been known to do a couple of inspections for mainly food vendors, based on my qualifications past. So yeah, I've done a couple of licensing for food vendors. I haven't done any food shop inspections.
So in regards to the food shop inspection records, so who is looking after that?
Admin staff in the health and planning team.
Okay, because it would appear that nobody from any department within council could find record of the Gardens Cafe when clearly it's been inspected. So that kind of raised a bit of a red flag for me.
Thank you, and thank you for your response. Councillor Rodder, Councillor Armstrong, I do beg your pardon.
Sorry.
Through you to the General Manager, and this is one you might want to take on notice that's just raised in response to your previous answer to my question, because I think it will help us next meeting. Is there any legal restriction on charging a usage? So, for example, if a food vendor is there 12 days out of every 14, for example, on the same site, is there any legal restriction on council charging them a higher rate based on the amount of days they're using it in the year?
Yeah, so the question I hope will be answered in the next month's deliberation over fees and charges. In compiling this report and hearing some of the concerns out of the bricks and mortar food shop owners, there's obviously not quite.
So there's that rates imbalance.
Yeah, that rates imbalance in terms of someone paying $3,000 or $4,000 for bricks and mortar, and you pull up in your truck and you're paying $190 a year or thereabouts. So we'll look at some more equitable charges for the review in the next month.
Thanks. That's a good answer.
Thank you. Thanks for your questions. Are there any speakers for the Councillor Weeding, a question?
Just a question about the powered sites. Do you have to book into those, or can anybody just pull up and plug into them?
No, I'm hoping that they'll be in kiosks or cabinets with keys, so there'll be a booking charge for that. We won't just be having free-for-all power outlets. So, yeah, this one, I'm more familiar with the Drings Hill or the James King Park Reserve one, where there's a cabinet there, but I need to put an extra meter on it because it's not council power, it's the school's power for their pump. So I've got to do some alteration and some work around that as well.
And do they use 240 power or 315 a bit?
Pretty much. Oh, well, vary. Coffee normally just $2.40, I think.
Yeah, if it's a pump site, there'd be 3-phase available.
Yeah.
If you were running deep fryers or something, you'd need 3-phase. You're obviously using a lot more power then, so.
Yep.
Coffee machines are actually high power usage, just so you know.
Very important machines. Thank you very much, everybody. Unless somebody would like to speak for or against the motion, we might move to putting it.
Just sorry, Mr. Mayor, just before you put it, just hang again for the assistant staff. Who was the seconder to that?
Councillor Weeding.
Correct.
I didn't have a clue.
Thank you. You're so honest, Councillor Nichols.
Thank you.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, we will move along to item 9.7, the draft Bronga Gold Structure Plan review, essentially seeking endorsement for public exhibition. Councillor Rodder, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Beaumont, thank you. Would you like to speak?
Yes, I would like to make comment about the thoroughness of information that is presented. There is a significant amount of reading to be undertaken as part of that structure plan review. The only question that I had in regards to the flood study, which is a separate body of work, I'm not sure that that's been adequately reflected in this document. And I'm happy to take some advice on that.
No, it's a fair comment. I mean, the reality of the Gold regulator and other flood mapping and whatever else will, yeah. So it's at this point in time, like with any strategy, it's probably, dare I say, two-dimensional, but through the consultation phase and the progression of the further flood study work, we can provide. So there's some identified areas which are supposed to be subject to flooding, but since then the highway's been lifted, there's been other things. So the flood modelling needs to be overlaid over it and see if there's further opportunity to open up land or restrict land.
So should that be foreshadowed and put into this document?
I've got two documents to be reviewed on my desk, this being one of them, and the other one is the rural lifestyle living document. They're both in draft currently, so you haven't really seen the rural lifestyle living document. It's got more heavily relied on the flood mapping. So the answer to your question is yes, they both need to reference those documents, and we'll try and do that within the next month through the submission period.
Right. So then, that being the case, so would the document need to go back on public consultation period post next meeting, assuming that we've fulfilled all the consultation requirements?
Look, I think out of the timing and the pressures of development, there'll be significant submissions by comparison to some of our other public exhibition documents. So hopefully there'll be resources available internally and submissions made externally to give us opportunity to review that. That'll be tabled as a submissions table to be brought into the council arena, and that'll either give you opportunity to accept or no longer required. Yeah, so I imagine, and it won't even be at the next meeting, so the 28 days will finish outside the next meeting date, so you probably won't see it till July anyway.
Okay.
And if I could just add to that, I mean, there's a few moving parts. We've endorsed the Shire-wide riverine and overland flood study, but we haven't developed the response to that yet. So that's going to be important to those aspects which cover off on flooding, but of course there's much more in the review than just areas that may be considered subject to flooding. So I'm just having a guess here that it might be reviewed sooner than 6 years. You know, there's new information that needs to come in. But,
you know, this is a large body of work, and so it seems appropriate to include include information in this structure plan review that we have on hand.
Strategic work in terms of its rollout of infrastructure and staging and whatever else. So you might see a component of it that's staged or further reviewed. Some are right to go because you know that they're access to services and infrastructure and delivering the right objectives of a zone. Some you might defer pending further investigation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Beaumont and then Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, look, very good document, very comprehensive. My question is around, is this subject to some alteration before it goes to public exhibition?
If you can tell me or explain the magnitude of your question.
So, page 228, 229, which refer to the sporting and recreational facilities, which I agree are very much needed in the Golgol-Baronga area. I just think it's unfortunate that one specific site has been identified as a preferred location within this document. I think we should be focusing on the need and identifying a suitable site going forward, not mentioning a preferred site at this time. I think for a negotiating perspective down the track.
I hear your point, Councillor Beaumont. My only initial response would be that that's all the drafters of this document have to go on currently, because we don't have that was our resolution, that was the preferred site. So whether the merits of that are good or not.
Yeah, we have had discussions though since, and I know there has been discussion just at management level and alternative sites thought of. We haven't even pointed out on the bus trip.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm just meaning nothing's come through council to say that we're currently looking for alternative sites.
I think that's what Councillor Beaumont's pointing out within the structure plan it identifies.
Okay, well,
probably a comment. It's interesting that most of our shire is leased land. Unfortunately, it's great to see it down there. 605 hectares in one lot. It's freehold, your end, and they're only going to use 114 of it. So it would be nice to think that some land might become available down here as well, because it's 114 out of 605. It's only a small area, so the development must go ahead. However, it's probably going out further and further as well.
That one where your thumb is as east as we'd go in terms of residential development, I would have thought, under this plan.
Councillor Armstrong, and then we'll zigzag back.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. If it's okay with fellow council, I'd like to speak to it, and then I have a couple of questions or suggestions following on what Councillor Beaumont just about some corrections. I think this plan, very good work by council and the consultants put together. It's vitally needed. Obviously, the Golgol-Baronga area has expanded, I think, ahead of where we had planned to be at this time. RDA conference I was at in Albury a couple of weeks ago, Wentworth Shire in particular, and the Baronga-Golgol area was highlighted as the only area outside of some parts of Albury that within RDA Murray as actually having good above state average growth. So I think it speaks speaks positively about our shire and how we're attracting development and we're attracting people to come and move here. I think this plan highlights some of those areas we need to develop further in keeping people here and attracting more people here. So I think it's important that we follow through not just on allowing more development, but making sure there are things here to attract and keep those people. So I think, as a plan to go to public consultation, I think it's great. I would commend it. The public would go and review it and give their feedback, because this is the community that we all live in, and everyone should be giving feedback and being concerned about the community that we live in. In saying that, just following up on Councillor Beaumont's comment there before, just on page, and I apologise, I'm just looking at the page numbers in the printed report, but I'll look at the one here. So figure 8 in the actual plan and figure 4.2 in the report location of commercial activities. I just noticed it includes the Baronga Caravan Park, but doesn't include the River Gardens Caravan Park at Golgol.
So what figure was that?
So it's figure 4.2 in the report and figure 8 in the plan. On page, so if you've got the printed plan, it's page 19. So just where River Garden, it's not. Yep. My other comment would be on page 40 of the plan, if we can just have it so that it names both of the fire brigades. So we have one just as, I think, Baronga Fire Brigade and the other as New South Wales Rural Fire Service Golgol. If they could both read New South Wales Rural Fire Service Baronga and New South Wales Rural Fire Service Golgol. That's page 40 in the plan, Ken. Just in the table on the right-hand side. So where it's got, if we could just have them both read New South Wales Rural Fire Service Golgol, New South Wales Rural Fire Service Baronga. And then just on page 56, the Golgol Creek is coloured the same as those lots there. So Golgol Creek is actually coloured as 1,500 metres squared minimum lot size, not as a natural waterway. WL, W2 or whatever it is, yep. And then just a question more, pages 63 and 64, it talks about Site 8, Site 12 and Site 9, but maybe I just am blind. I can't find a figure that shows those sites or any further detail about them.
Take your question on notice.
Yeah, perfect. That was all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Armstrong. I'm probably just follow that with a question to the General Manager. Most of the changes that Councillor Armstrong's articulated are, corrections of fact,
That's right.
which can be handled during the
perfect. That was I
during
thought.
the exhibition period. I think the one we're going to have to give more consideration to in this meeting is to Councillor Beaumont's question, where we would be taking information out of the document. So we'll get back to that though, because we're going to go to Councillor Rodder.
Thank you very much. So I just would like to speak about the REM plan and the DPHI population projections on page 144 in the meeting minutes. That seems to be a significant underestimation, and I'm wondering whether potentially it'll be picked up in the public submission period. However, they're not reflective of reality at all from what I see, and we've already exceeded the predicted growth in that area. So should those predictions be changed in our structure plan?
Talk to the consultant in relation to the facts and findings and how it's been represented. And that once again is a good submission point. Is it true and accurate? Does it reflect the current circumstances or future growth patterns? So
I think population underpins the need for works in that area, and if we've got incorrect population data, I mean that sets the baseline below where it needs to be.
I mean, it doesn't align with our own data that we've used for water services projections.
Subsequent to that, on page 160, so there's key tourism related services and facilities located within the Baronga Golgol study area. I realise Monaco, Trentham Estate and Trentham Quarters are outside of Baronga Golgol, and so I assume that's why they're not included in that. So is there a structure plan that covers those areas? And Mildura the Holden Museum is at Baronga, that potentially needs to be listed in that section as well.
Yeah, I put those in the category of Councillor Armstrong's. They're just factual changes that I think can be reflected, I presume.
Yeah. In terms of the map is the study area, so outside around sort of Trentham,
winery borders and in and around there, Monarch Winery and other bits and pieces. They're outside the study area. How they're represented in terms of numbers and figures. Once again, I'll talk to the consultant in relation to something covering off on those. Because Trentham Waters itself could be, if it's going all right, it could be a population larger than dead.
Quick question as a follow up to that regarding governance. Is there anything restricting councillors putting in submissions that doesn't lead to a conflict when we deal with it? Because
no, they're a councillor, but they're also a ratepayer and a member of the public, so they're more than.
Particularly at this level.
Not all residents of Baronga and Golgol, Councillor Armstrong, just to correct your earlier contribution. Councillor Nichols.
Through the General Manager, you may remember, Mr General Manager, I believe that when we put the large sewer line in there, which is grossly too large at the time, the projected, and I think was written, population then was 10,000.
I thought it was 8, but yeah, it's certainly in that vicinity.
Yeah, so it's come back a lot from the projection of, I suppose, 2020 would be, so yeah.
I mean, yeah, in terms of infrastructure, sewer pump stations themselves could probably do with an upgrade, but the size of the mains and whatever else appear to be adequate. So it's more in the pumping mechanism that maybe need an upgrade, like the water. So the cost of development is future cost of infrastructure to support it.
Further questions around that.
Question?
How much spare water do we currently have? I know we did have around 500 megs that we were loaning out and giving out to various sporting organisations. With the what do we have surplus to our needs at this stage?
Council holds several water licences. So the ones you were asking about in terms of water utilities licences, I think we're about 60% of our allocation. I'd need to review that. I knew that when I was back in planning, and we're about 50%, so I've had a guess that we've
taken 10%. Well, it's not as much as I thought we may have done.
I'm glad your question was how much spare water do we have and not spare water pressure do we have?
We don't have any.
Councillor Armstrong.
No, I didn't.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Starry.
Just a couple of other housekeeping ones, if I could. On page 25, when I was cross-checking the percentages in the words, they didn't seem to match the table beside it. If that could just be checked. That was page 25. If it's the way I'm reading it and it's not meant to, that's fine. So RU5, just over 63 of the percent of RU5, but when I look at RU5, it's got 62, and then R5 was 78 in the words, but in the table it's listed as 63. So perhaps, and then the labelling of figures in the actual document seems to go out of whack about figure 12. So I'm on about page 37. And it's referencing figure 12 on page 37. I'm assuming it's referring to page 13 on the opposite page.
I would agree with that.
And then as I go further into the document, by the time I get to figure 15 and others, it seems to be out by 1. So it's just housekeeping.
Yeah, and perhaps if councillors that have observed these things just want to flick a note in covering the specifics, that will save us having to deal with amendments. I think it's all pretty basic stuff just to be corrected. Is there any further speakers? Okay, I think we'll come back to Councillor Beaumont's point. If there's a desire for any, and if anyone's planning on moving an amendment in terms of restricting some of the information. Just
about that amendment.
Oh, that's entirely up to you. We've had some good discussion, but I'm just conscious that really what we're currently debating is just the printed motion.
Well, just make the amendment motion, or
It would if you want to. I'm thinking it would if you want to restrict some information that's in here going on to public exhibition. Did you have specific pages or paragraphs that you wanted?
Okay, I'll have to go back to it and find it now. What page is that on?
I'm happy to seek any guidance on how we should handle that query.
I need to identify exactly where it's in the plan.
Yeah, 138.
So it's just the
So I'm looking
sporting
at
master
page
plan. Sporting master plan, is that the topic? Is the sporting master plan, is that the subject?
Yes, yes. So 7.5. I'm reading it on the agenda.
Page 228.
Yeah, 228 and 229 in the agenda. Or, in the large document.
Page 44, Ken, in the plan.
What is it in the large
Page
document?
44.
So my motion would be that I suggest the removal of any reference to identifying a preferred site at this stage be removed from the draft document. That doesn't doesn't preclude any further investigation or identification of a future site.
Can I just so this doesn't deal with other alternative sites. This just deals with what public information that council has previously endorsed. So sorry, it's just a question. Yeah. So everything that's in here is already out in the public realm.
Well, it will be once this goes out.
Well, this is already.
But that's already been
Because this is a resolution of
No,
council.
right.
Yeah. Sorry, that was my earlier.
That's sporting
My
master
point.
plan.
Alright.
Thank you for that, because I was looking about where I talked on the bus. I was looking for its reference in here, and I'm thinking.
No, you.
So I think
Yeah,
we're safe.
yeah.
Councillor
But I
Scarrow.
thought somewhere it had made it into
No.
made it into here, and I'm thinking
No,
missed that.
I'm here to come from the.
Yeah, no. So that
In terms of negotiation down there, if this will become a reality in some people's mind that this is the site, which, at some point when we do get funds and whatever to progress a sporting complex, whoever the owner is of this, is.
Yeah.
That doesn't help in terms of negotiating going forward, does it?
Yeah, that point
Yeah. So we're actually in reverse. We've got it nominated as a preferred site on the old Yabby farm opposite Caramar Oval, and we're trying to put other people into the mix so we can play that in terms of negotiation with that land or any other option. Trying to put more options on the table so that, having said all that, if it comes down to council's position of the absolute need and desire to acquire certain lands, it comes under a valuation process.
Councillor Starrick.
Through the chair, I was just going to say that further to that, yes, the sporting master plan identified that piece of land. Subsequent to that and subsequent to the adoption of that sporting master plan, there was a motion that came to council in regards to the looking at the purchase of land, and council resolved to give the general manager the authority to seek out an appropriate parcel of land. So that has, by way of that resolution, spread the net wider that we are in fact looking at other pieces of land, and that is no longer the preferred site.
So I think to add some comfort to that, I mean, you're quite entitled to seek the removal of the information, but even if this remains, given what Councillor Starrick has just said, it wouldn't prevent council from seeking an alternative piece of land. And I think I was just worried in my earlier comments to you that there was some new information here that could prejudice negotiations. But what's here is already.
I'm sorry if I'm misled.
No, I thought I knew reasonably what was in here, and I mentioned that. I thought I
misled anyone in the way I've relayed my thoughts, but I just look at it purely from a negotiation.
That is a very valid point of view.
I think that I still suggest that if it could be removed, and reference to identification of suitable sites would be a better way to go. Anyway, that's just my thought.
The fact still remains that the adopted sporting master plan has got that plan out everywhere currently.
Yeah, but things change over time.
Yeah, and I would humbly submit that at a future point a new motion will come into council, subject to further investigation and negotiation, that may not resemble this precise arrangement here.
So that being the case, do you just take it off the table?
So I mean, given the discussion we've had, and this is very much a back and forth discussion, I'm quite comfortable with this being here personally, because it is what council currently has on the books. I think there may well be something different come forward to council, and having this in this draft document won't prevent us from looking at alternative sites. But if you remain uncomfortable, you're entitled to move an amendment. Okay. I will move. I'll put the motion that this go out on public exhibition. Those in favour?
Are we doing an amendment?
Sorry, no.
Sorry, I'm confused.
Oh, sorry. No, there is no amendment has been put. Sorry. Yeah. Lots of discussion. It's so we're just dealing with the motion as printed, and it's been moved and seconded, and now I'm putting it. Those in favour? Thank you. That's carried.
As best we can, there'll be minor corrections in some of the typos and things for the exhibition copy, but I'll accept now that I won't get them all.
That's right. All right. Thanks, everybody. Righto. Item 9.8. So, Councillor Crisp.
Mr. Mayor, I move that Council approves DA 2025/165 for a swimming pool with barrier at 221 Pooncarie Road, Lot 7, DP 1270097, Wentworth, subject to draft conditions of consent as presented in attachment 6, excluding condition 10. Now, councillors, this is going to...
I'll just grab a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Crisp. Is the motion seconded? Councillor Weeding, thank you. Councillor Crisp, you have the floor.
Thank you. Now, I need to go through this, and firstly I'd like to thank Jackson Planning for their concise presentation, and we will work our way through this. The reason for the approval here rests very much in clause 7.9 of the Wentworth LEP, and that specifically relates to the Riverton Farm development in Wentworth. It was a 2014 amendment to a 2011 LEP, and the clause applies to certain land at Riverton Farm, 107 Pooncarey Road, Wentworth being lot 1, etc., etc. That probably doesn't matter so much. Now, this is the key parts here now. Despite any other provisions of this development, consent must not be granted to the erection of a dwelling on a house to which the clause applies unless the floor level is above 35.35 AHD and the dwelling house is not within 30 metres of any bank of a river, and the land's in excess of 5,000 metres, or is at least 5,000 metres square. It meets condition C, which is the 5,000 metres. And that any bank is important because in some of the discussion that's here, and I go back to page 293, the paragraph above recommendations, that it's from the high bank of the river. The high bank is not any bank. So there's a misconception there. Now, also, as being pointed out by the planning consultants and my knowledge, that there's precedence here that we've had previous applications for variations of this type, and that it is to have swimming pools in this particular area. And if people have spent a great deal of resources to produce some very nice homes, probably rivaling Carramar Drive on the Darling instead of the Murray, that this should be allowed to be continued. This is also from what the consultant has reported to us, has said that it's within the limits anyhow, and there's probably room to move there between high bank and any bank that makes the consultant, I think, right in this case. Now we move to condition 10, and for councillors, that's on page 333. It starts on 332, but that's a preamble. Now, these conditions here, again, really, I think are onerous and may well be put there to defeat the purpose of the 4.6 variation process that we are currently involved in, and the landscape objectives and lifestyle of the Riverton estate. And again, if you look on page 333 at dot point 2, again you see highest bank there, which is not relevant to the Riverton estate under clause 7.9. So with that there, I think that this motion to approve it should be supported. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Crisp. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Any further speakers for the motion? Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to follow up on what Councillor Crisp has said, I think, as Jackson Planning highlighted in the public forum, section 7.9 in the LEP was missed in reviewing this. And then in looking at, as I was considering this, as reviewing the papers, looking at current development that is in that same area, on that same lot, there are house-bound, like actual houses that are within, closer to what the current report is saying should be excluded, closer to the river than that. So to be consistent with what this council has done historically, I think we must approve this.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Nichols.
I've been very controversial this evening. Having said that, I have huge problems that we have a report with more than 20 conditions of why it shouldn't be done, that we've done it. I made the comment probably 2 or 3 years ago when we did the first one. It would come back to bite us. It's come back to bite us because now we've got 4 or 5 that we've approved.
Thank you, Councillor Nichols.
Against the recommendations.
But not against the amended LEP 7.9. Would anyone like to wrap up the debate? The mover has that opportunity. Or
thank you. I think councillors, as Councillor Armstrong said, it's pretty straightforward here. This is clearly a case of us being consistent with how we have behaved in the past.
Thank you, Councillor Crisp. I'll put the motion, and given this is a planning matter, All votes for and against will be recorded as a division. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Thank you. Please record Councillor Nichols' vote against. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We will jog on now to item 9.9, Development Application Determination Report. Moved Councillor Armstrong, seconded Councillor Rodder. Any discussion? Councillor Armstrong.
Only, Mr. Mayor, just to note, again, thank the General Manager for providing this report. And other than that first page, all of the other development applications, that time frame continues to come in, and that's, I think, a very positive thing. So,
Thank you. On the better side of the J curve, Councillor Armstrong. Any further speakers?
Needed to be there. Jacob needed to be on the better side.
Most definitely, Councillor.
Sure.
Those in favour? Thank you, carry. Alrighty, everybody's favourite report. Item 9.10, the project works report for April 26. Moved Councillor Nichols. Thank you. We'll get to the question. Seconded Councillor Starrick. And Councillor Nichols, you have a question.
Question on 351 Wentworth Caravan Park pressure issues. My question is, will what we're proposing to do in any way affect the Cadell Street residents' pressure?
Director Gunn.
No, it won't have any effect on the pressure outside the caravan park. This is primarily a flow related issue with the increase in the.
Take more water in. Yeah. That's fine, because I hate to have 100 people from Cadell Street saying their water's disappeared. So.
Thanks, Councillor Nichols.
5,000 from Cloggle saying the same thing.
Sorry, his question.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else have a question? Councillor Wheaton? Sorry.
On the same topic of the caravan park.
Yes.
So the upgrade of water service upgrade 20 mil to 63 millimetre pipe. Is that through the whole caravan park? I mean, has that been a request?
No, that's just within the service upstand area. So that comes from the main. So that's the size of the pipe that leads into the
Our heads and waters thing.
the head for the power heads. So there's 2, 3, and sometimes 4 outlets on the power heads. So that's the line that goes from the main in through inside. Essentially, it's an upgrade of the line inside the power heads, leading to the 4 outlets.
So we've got mains within the caravan park.
Yep.
And then the offshoots or the supply into the power heads and water outlets, or the light towers. Yeah, they were too narrow and too small.
So this has resulted then in, because my understanding is that visitors get into the shower in their vans, turn on the water, and there wasn't sufficient water to activate their hot water services and things. So does this upgrade rectify that situation?
Correct.
It's all about that. The powered site, and so some come with 4 power outlets and 4 taps or water connections to your van. They're pre-purchased out of Perth or something, and the outlets going to the water taps are only about 12 mil or something like that. So there just wasn't enough water getting through them, and they weren't fabricated by contractors or us. They were purchased off the floor in a factory in Perth, I think it was, and they just weren't large enough in the outlet to deliver the right outcomes for instantaneous hot water heaters and stuff.
Thank you. Councillor Wheating.
Pretty much had the same question as Councillor Beaumont, maybe with the additional wirelessness picked up when we made the caravan park. And so, that's a pretty big upgrade, as 3 times
Yeah, well, I suppose that's as per the design. So it was purchased and installed as per what was identified on the design, and it's not until I suppose particular caravans come with those heaters and 2 and 3 and sometimes 4 vans running off the same power head that the issue has come to light.
Thank you. Are there any further questions?
Not,
Councillor Rodder.
not in regards to the caravan park. So the Pooncarie and Wentworth Camp Kitchens. So recently, myself and Councillor Beaumont attended the Pooncarie Reserve. I have a question, and the General Manager did provide via email a response in regards to the compliance of the outdoor PowerPoints. Given that that area is primarily powered by generator, I still have concerns. The fact that the PowerPoints on the outside of that building are open to the weather. They, from my reckoning, and I'm no electrician, and especially not in New South Wales, in regards to electrical compliance, but I would have thought that they would have had to have been PowerPoints with that are rated for outdoor usage and available from the bottom. So I'd like to have that matter looked at again. But in regards to the Wentworth Camp Kitchen, so my information has been provided in regards to the fridges that have been installed in that camp kitchen. We had a similar situation at the Golgol Recreation Reserve at Carramar Drive, whereby when council, and the same issue at Pooncarie, when council hires out the facility, they're allowing people, hirers of the facilities, to use equipment that does not belong to council. So my understanding is that one fridge has been given to the racing club, and one's been given to the show society, or something similar, and they're responsible for the insurance and the maintenance, etc., on those fridges. So what process is in place in regards to those users of those facilities being protected? And the situation was discussed at Pooncarie in regards to when council hire out that facility, they keep the funds for that, but then there's a cost structure breakdown for the users of that facility, which they must pay council for the use of the power, but there's no, and I don't know whether Scott Barnes has fed any of the information from the Pooncarie.
So, Councillor Rodder, can I just interrupt and ask whether the issues you're articulating, have they been captured by a user group committee meeting and therefore subject to some action or response?
Well, I don't know whether there's been any response, but
so they've been captured though within the.
Well, I don't know whether it's been conveyed adequately to council, but in regards to the camp kitchen at Wentworth, that's another matter in regards to the fridges and them being, those user groups being responsible for the insurance and maintenance on those. I think that needs to be, when that's a broader discussion around user group agreements and council hiring facilities.
Okay. General Manager, do you have a response to that, and could you respond please to whether the person who made an assessment of the compliance of the PowerPoints was a qualified electrician or not? Because I know there was some response to those queries.
In relation to the PowerPoints at Pooncarie was fed through. I did the response to Councillor Ryder on the basis that I was told that a qualified electrical contractor that inspected them again, and they were deemed to be conforming with Australian standards. That's as much as I know.
I just don't think they're suitable for outdoor use, Ken, because they're open to the weather. So rain, irrigation, water can enter into those PowerPoints. That does not in any way, shape or form in any of the electrical safety work that I do in regards to temporary events, and they're not okay. So I would ask for that to be revisited, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any further questions? A bit quiet tonight. Director Gunn's not getting peppered with questions.
Maybe about 3 or 4 meetings since he hasn't been.
I have a comment, Director Gunn. Congratulations on opening up new gravel pits. Very sensible, given the extent of our gravel road network.
It's cold. So
But yeah, if there's no more questions, I'll move the report. Those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. Could we move now, please, to notices of motion? I would like to move my motion with a very slight correction in item 2, where it speaks in honour of Ewan Reuben Cameron. The spelling of Ewan is actually E-W-E-N, not what I've written. Seconder, sorry. Thank you, Councillor Rodder. I'll speak to my motion. It's a real pleasure to bring this motion to Council following some approaches from members of the community seeking recognition for family members, and so delighted to finally get this into Council. Look, given that it's various family members that have put forward some of these suggestions, I thought they're not going to be unique events. I'm sure into the future we'll receive more. So looking at the rotunda at Golgol in terms of an ongoing display of commemorative plaques, I felt was a pretty good place to use some existing infrastructure with not too much bother, but to satisfy the community desire to recognise significant contributors to the community. In terms of item 2, I had separately received a submission from a member of the public dealing with one of Golgol's favourite sons, Ewan Reuben Cameron. It was mentioned, you can see what I've put there about in terms of a war hero. Ewan, according to the information I was provided, was born in Colac, Victoria, worked as a grocer's assistant prior to enlisting. He served in the RAF from 1939 to 45 and was discharged in 1946. He was posted to England. He served as a tail gunner in raids over Germany. He was shot down on his 29th mission and parachuted behind enemy lines. Captured by Germans and spent time in 2 German POW camps, received a number of medals, was promoted to warrant officer, and he met a lovely British woman, Ellen, and brought her to Australia. They lived in Golgol at the site of the existing public school, and they raised their 5 children who all attended the Golgol Primary School, and 3 who still live in Golgol. Now, as a little tacker, I lived on William Street, 2 doors down from where Alan or Mrs. Cameron lived, and used to go and bother her and everybody else on the street for donations for MS Readathon and things like that. The Cameron family it continues to be a well-known and much family in the Golgol area, and held with much esteem and affection. So I thought it was appropriate, given I'd received that submission from a non-family member, that be sort of the initial recognition plaque in Golgol. Separately, and this request is in your papers, from a family member to name the lane in Golgol, parallel to the Sturt Highway between Bligh Street and Tapio Street, Cameron Lane. So I thought it was appropriate to bring that forward with this motion. And separately, I know I've certainly received advocacy from Paul Monica. I think maybe one or more other councillors have also, and so really pleased to bring forward this motion to erect a sign adjacent to the shared path in Golgol near the Drings Hill Reserve, the Tom Monica pathway. For those of you who know Tom, he's literally just spent his whole life committed to public service, and you still see him marching around. He's well into his 80s, and hence the connection to the shared path at Golgol. I'll just add that I think there's probably going to be a series of motions over the next 6 months or so dealing with community recognition. You'll well remember we have the late former councillor Haywood to appropriately recognise. We obviously lost our former mayor, Councillor Elstone, last year, and there will be other matters to deal with. But this is what I've brought in this month, and I would urge your support for the motion. Councillor Nichols.
Look, I commend you for your notice of motion, and I wonder if you'd be prepared to, under one, expand it and put it there and establish similar areas in each of our townships. Pooncarie Park, Denton Park opposite the police station, and the Park of Ruby. That therefore then gives the same, exactly the same ability to recognise people in their areas, because there are people, I don't think Bill would really want to be sitting in that park down there, and I'll use Bill as an example, down there, and I think it's a great idea. It's only a matter of putting up a piece of concrete with names on it.
Yeah, look, I'm quite happy. If the second is happy, the only reason I didn't do that, and I understand that we have broad-based Shire-wide community recognition, whether they be statements by the MP or different awards, Australia Day awards and so forth. These are sort of getting down into the parochial sort of, I'm a boy from Golgol, I'm a boy from Pomona or whatever. And the only reason I didn't broaden it out is because I didn't want to do it on the fly. I sort of thought future motions might come forward in a similar fashion to deal with other specific areas. But in saying that, I'm happy.
I'll throw it to the. I think if we're going to establish it here, if we establish the whole lot at the same time, and the parks are in the streets, it makes it fairly a lot simpler, and in future people can, on the same basis, put forward nominations as they may wish. Because I'm sure Councillor Elstone would be one of those that would go into Wentworth.
Look, I think
and
and
Dearden would probably be looking at various people.
It probably dovetails into it, because this is the suggestion there to establish a suitable process, and I think would need to be more than annually. So perhaps in doing that, it can consider the other areas you speak of.
A couple of words on the end of that dot point one of nominations and recognition to be within communities. Process for nominations and recognition to be installed in relative communities, something to that.
Are you happy with? I'm happy. Is the seconder?
I second.
Seconder.
So I think that if there's going to be any changes, it would need to be an additional dot point put at point 5. So because this is recognise the rotunda at Golgol to display, my concern is that us at the table here are not the community of Pooncarie or Pomona, and I think it's up to those communities to select their most appropriate location for appropriate recognition of their special people.
Thank you. Councillor Chris.
I think, Mr Mayor, listening to the comments and debate that's occurring, I think we need a policy response to this, and because we've heard how it wants to be expanded, but I would think that I'll be happy to vote for this motion, but I would urge that perhaps the General Manager look at a policy response so that we can have clear guidelines to all our communities, treat them all similarly and fairly. And yes, broadly you've laid out the bones of it here, but going forward, I think we do need a policy response on this.
So I might just thank you, Councillor Crisp, and given there are words there, Council to establish a suitable, not more frequent than annual process for community nominations and recognition, and community word could be interpreted pretty broadly. Is the General Manager satisfied that item 1 deals with Councillor Crisp's request?
I would have thought so. When I read your notice of motion, I thought that there was work coming my way to establish those guidelines of what it might be in terms of future process. So, was my understanding in reading your notice of motion that we'll get the first runs on the board, and then futuristically we'll have some governing policy around what are we going to do in the other communities in our surrounding network. So that's the way I understood it, but it's up to clarification of the councillors.
Thank you. Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Anyone have a question?
Make a comment.
Yes,
Yeah,
Councillor Beaumont.
Yeah, look, I'd just like to remind Council that we do have a resolution on the books dating back to July 2023 in relation to recognise the Alan Grogan around the establishment of the platform and revitalising the Junction Island Walk. That motion was put by myself and supported. 23. So I think that probably just needs to be picked up in the overall scheme of this motion.
My look of, I thought I crafted an email to you, Councillor Beaumont, to ask or suggest that would you put some words together for me to acknowledge since the passing of Brian? Would you help me out some wording? But obviously I haven't hit the send button. I'm guessing by your response and my thoughts on it. So I do apologise for that.
No, that's no apology required. Happy to do that.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing. Yeah, that jogs the memory. Councillor Rodder.
So I'd just like to speak to the motion. So being a long time Wahronga girl, so the likes of Mr. Monica is an absolute legend within that community. And as you stated, the Cameron name is very well known and very well represented in that community. And I think that this is a fantastic way to recognise the efforts of the Cameron family and Mr. Monica.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Beaumont.
If I could, I think that to pick up on the point I think Councillor Armstrong made, we do need to establish some protocol around this because we don't want a situation where I could see potential for within the community of well, why is that person up there and not my aunt or uncle or grandparent or whatever. So I think we need to have some guidelines and protocols around determining the merits of the definition of individuals.
Yes,
that's
it
going
won't be as strict, but obviously the naming of roads and other place names come under the guidance of the Geographical Names Board. So somewhere in the mix of the policy response, as Councillor Chris mentioned, there'll be something in the government world that sort of says you've got to satisfy certain criteria.
Thank you very much. I will put the motion. Those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. I appreciate that. Thank you for your support. We'll move on to item 11. Conclusion of the meeting. And our next meeting is the 13th of May 2026.
Good deliberation.
You look for the
He's done it again. He slipped another one in.
Thank you.